Angus Mitchell, Angus Mitchell, and I'm the Chief Commissioner of the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. And thank you for coming out here, and particularly over the Christmas period and in this heat. Today, behind me, obviously you're quite aware that yesterday we got reports of a small plane accident here just out of Alpen. Initially we understand it was response was for a fire, and subsequently in responding to the fire they've discovered that it was a small aircraft that has indeed crashed, and quite tragically two on board that aircrane have lost their lives. Now look, it is very early obviously in the investigation, and my team is just arriving on site now. What we will be looking to determine exactly what the aircraft was doing in the area. We understand it had initially come up from the Goulburn area. Now whether that was where it took off from, we're yet to determine, and potentially was heading to the airport that's just behind us, the small airstrip at Wedderburn. Exactly what tasking it was doing, we don't know at this stage, and we certainly don't speculate, but we do know that it was a small two-seater, single-engine, kit-built experimental aircraft, initially coming out of the United States. Now, how long it's been here in Australia for, we're yet to determine, but there's some of the facts that we'll start to piece together over the course of the rest of the day. And that'll be from what was the weather at the time, both the forecast weather and the experienced weather. We know a number of other aircraft were in the air at the time, and we do also know that there were a number of witnesses who had seen the plane somewhere in those final phases of flight. So we'll certainly be gathering what we can from those witnesses, but of course then doing a thorough examination of the accident site. Now, as you can imagine, accident sites are quite challenging at the best of times, particularly collisions with terrain, and in this case followed by quite a substantive fire. So it is challenging for both the first responders, who have obviously had to deal with it initially, and then to the police and the DVI team that are on site at the moment, and we certainly thank them for their assistance. But it'll be a painstaking process for my investigators now to try and piece together what they can from the site, but equally around all of the other factors that were pertinent to this particular flight and this particular aircraft. Certainly very happy to take any questions.
You mentioned it was a kit-built aircraft. Can you explain what that means?
So it's not a mass production aircraft. It was built essentially from a kit. We know it came initially registered from the US. Now how many years it's been out here in Australia we're yet to determine, but it's what we would refer to as an experimental aircraft. So it had a Subaru engine in it, we understand, but in terms of the in-depth maintenance history of this aircraft, they're some of the things that we try to piece together very early in the investigation.
Just inspected the crash site. What is it sort of initially telling you about the sort of forces?
Look, any aircraft collision with terrain has significant forces, as you can appreciate. Now, exactly what was happening at the time, the team will try and determine whether it was under power at the time of the collision, which gives us some sort of indication of the status of the aircraft. Equally, we'll start looking at the continuation of a drivetrain, what was working, what's there, what's not there. As you can appreciate, it's fairly challenging. You've got not only the impact forces, but you've got a fire after that as well. So it does take us a number of days, and I expect my investigators will be on site for some time trying to piece together what they can from this particular site.